भद्रं मे अपि वातय मनः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you very much to Indica for inviting me for this conference. When Hari Kiranji told me that he was doing this, I was very, very excited for all the reasons that Nagaraj Garu has already outlined in his very comprehensive and precise overview. And I'll be addressing a little more of that. And then Dr. Bhavuk's presentation was just phenomenal. And we need at least a week to listen to him, to elaborate each and every point. But it is very, very exciting, where he has taken the Raga Dvesha psychology of the Bhagavad Gita and traced the whole gamut of human emotions from this standpoint of modern psychology, theory and practice method. And what I would like to share with you today is again a very broad overview. And if it would have had a title, I think it would be From the Freedom of Pursuit to the Pursuit of Freedom. And this is a little bit of a, what is that called, word play, which of course, Indica is very much based on, and people in Indica very much like that. So we start with the whole thing about what I would like to backtrack a little bit with what Dr. Nagaraj Garu talked about. He began by saying, for some reason, there is a certain inhibition to calling things Hindu. We would rather call it Indian or whatever it was. And that inhibition, we very well know, is a prasada, a sad legacy from colonialism. This is very much there, and it is a legacy, it is a psychological legacy of the colonial rule, first the Mughal rule and then the British rule. And so and this is because there is, it is impossible to colonize a culture and colonize people without making them hate themselves. So the word Hindu brings up feelings of self-loath, to put it very, very frankly. There is inhibition, there is a kind of an aloofness to it, and there is self-loath. Because there's no way of colonizing somebody by saying you need me to rule over you because your culture is wonderful, your tradition is wonderful. There's no, you have to put down, and this constant putting down, starting from Alexander not so great all the way up to not so great Britain, is what is the reason for this. And that is why what has happened as a result of this is that there has been a lot of appropriation of what in modern parlance is called intellectual property rights. We didn't have, that which is born of the intellect for us is never considered property. Never considered property. It is for everybody. Because what is in your buddhi and what is in my buddhi is because Bhagavan has put it there. The capacity to think, the capacity to come up with something new is not new at all. It is a potential. It is there in everybody. And it is there in, in you, in me, in the various ways in which we contribute to, in our lives. And so we never bothered right from the start to try to make something to, as our own, especially knowledge. In the Vedas, there are so many hymns. We don't know some of the rishis who channeled those hymns. The rishi never said, I am giving this hymn. The rishi and the rishinis were what are called the seers, mantra drashtarah. They were the seers of the mantra rather than the authors of the mantra. And so, until, so we had to have actually a kind of a waking up on this, including the government of India, when, the basmati was grown in Texas, and then it was called Texmati, and then they wanted to do the same thing with yoga poses and everything. And so now there is a renaissance and a reclamation of some of these ancient concepts, which, are now accredited to the authors or the people in the celebrities in modern psychology, Jung, Freud, etc. But everything that they expound is already there in the Shastras, and some of that, that is what I would like to just present a little bit today. The first thing that strikes one about the Hindu tradition is the embracing of the human capacity to desire. This stands out, especially in connection to all other contemporary organized religions, where the desire is seen as something terrible and something that has to be quote unquote controlled. But not so in the tradition. In the same Bhagavad Gita that Dr. Bhavuk quoted, Dharamji quoted, same thing. Bhagavan says, I am in the form of desire. Kamosmi Bharatarshabha. I am in the form of desire. And there is nothing to feel ashamed of. There is nothing to feel bad about having desires. Only thing is we have to read the fine print which comes in the next line. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. I am that desire that does not go against a way of life that is righteous, a way of life that doesn't ride roughshod over everybody's rights, privileges. A way of life in which I am secure. I as a jiva, as a being, am secure about my place in the scheme of things. And I contribute from my understanding of what there is, what my talents are and what there is for me to do. I can contribute. I respect the unwritten rules, the golden rule of life, that I have a desire to be respected, and other people also have the same desire to be respected. I have the desire to not be defrauded, and the other people in the world also have the desire to not be defrauded. How to ensure that I am not cheated, I am not lied to, my property is not taken away from me? How do I ensure that? The only way, the singular way of ensuring that is I don't do what I don't want others to do unto me. This becomes the first freedom. This becomes the first pursuit, which is dharma. The first purushartha, the first one of the freedoms to pursue is this. Because desire is validated, encouraged, there should be a certain way in which to funnel these desires. And that becomes dharma, the first pursuit. If anybody here would like to say, how can dharma be a pursuit? Because I'm not particularly interested in being dharmic. I will say it's desirable. Dharma is desirable indirectly. I want other people to be nice to me. Therefore, dharma comes into the picture. Very, very interesting. And so this is what, this kind of a codification of desire through dharma, the funneling of desire through a righteous way of living so that everybody is free enough to pursue whatever they want, is a hallmark of the Hindu tradition. And then the other unique thing about dharma is we don't say that dharma is some kind of a commandment given by Bhagavan on a hilltop or something like that. Dharma is a manifestation of that very goddess, of that very Lord that we yearn to be one with. This is what dharma is. Dharma is seen as a manifestation of the Lord, not just a commandment. And so therefore this becomes, very, very interesting. It's a holy way of life unfolded in the first portion of the Veda called the Karma Kanda. It's a holy way of life because the more dharmic I am, the closer to Ishvara I am. The more dharma there is in the heart, the closer one is to the whole, to the Lord. Because the less the conflict, the less the chance that the heart becomes a Kurukshetra of various competing desires. And dharma and adharma. It doesn't become a battlefield of dharma and adharma when dharma preponderates. And then what about the other pursuits? We have codified all the things, security-based pursuits as artha. Artha means security. Ultimately, that gives one security. Whether it's a marital happiness, family life, bank account, a secure job, other things you want to accomplish. All this comes under artha. And this too is a very, very, it's a very psychologically sound, to have the Vedas, the holy teachings, validate the artha pursuits. Why? Because this is something which is basic to the human need. Basic. It's a psychological fact, because we have seen that, when children are born, they need touch, they need eye contact. So this is some kind of a, this insecurity is a very, very big thing. And so that insecurity comes from a sense of disconnection. And I say sense of disconnection because the disconnection is not really real. It has a certain empirical standing, a vyavaharika satta, but not ultimately real, because the ultimate teaching, which I will be coming to shortly, is that everything is interconnected, nay, everything is just one. And all that is there is you, and everything here is but an extension of you. So therefore, the first portion of the Veda validates the pursuit of security as a logical pursuit for one's psychological well-being. Dharma is definitely for one's psychological well-being. That's why one gets very disturbed if somebody cuts you when you talk, or cuts you as you drive on the road, or says something completely unwarranted. One is disturbed because that basic psychological need has been violated. Same thing with artha. Because the pursuit of artha is a valid psychological pursuit for the sake of a relative shanti and harmony in one's life. And for this, the first portion of the Veda is full of prayers. Full of prayers. And the prayers are again to funnel that desire for psychological, validity, that psychological, well-being through artha, through security. We funnel it through dharma. And how do we do this? By converting it into prayer. And so there are, billions and trillions of prayers in the Vedas and also in the Smritis. Give me a sense of security. Give me a sense of wholeness. Everything is there. And starting with the huge elaborate fire rituals, wanting security by reserving a place in a place called heaven. Even that is there. Even that is validated. Yes, I want a place in heaven. Svarga kamaha somena yajeta. May the person desirous of securing a comfortable situation in the afterlife, use soma. Soma was some kind of a plant whose juice was extracted and it was offered into the fire. And because now it is extinct, we can say that soma, so many people wanted to go to heaven, etc. That's why soma is completely extinct. So there is no more soma anymore. And it was pressed out of existence, literally, by the pressing need to be secure not only in this life but in the afterlife. It is validated. Because as long as one has a body, these kinds of insecurities are part of this whole body-mind sense complex. It is therefore these relative needs are validated for psychological health and well-being. Then after that, of course, we have kama. Kama here means aesthetic pleasures. Things that one need not do but one does just for the fun of it. One has fun doing it, because life, after all, is not just about dharma and security. There is, especially for a human being, there is a freedom to desire, and there is freedom to think, to imagine, to write poetry, to connect with nature. So many things, and all this is totally validated. All this is something which is there, and even for that there are so many rituals in the Veda, in the first portion of the Veda, for all this. Then finally at the end is one more pursuit called moksha. Not to be confused with mocha, okay? That you get in Starbucks and coffee shops. This is moksha, which you don't get at all, which is already your nature. Moksha from the root verb much, to be free. This freedom is already there, where in the vision of the Veda. The Hindu dharma is nothing but a vision. This vision that one is already what one wants to be. And to attain this vision, to understand and assimilate this vision, there is a way of life. A way of life that is conducive to gaining this vision. A way of life of responsibly following one's desires, which we just talked about. The threefold desires there. The threefold purusharthas, following them responsibly, is the way of life that is, talked about for the pursuit of moksha. Moksha is an as-though pursuit because one is already free. Free from what? Free from being a wanting person. This is the subject matter of Vedanta, the Upanishads, also known as Vedanta. The latter portion of the Veda. The first portion of the Veda is huge. But when we talk of the Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, 1 page. Katha Upanishad, maybe 20 pages. Like this, it is very pithy, short. It is for the person who is ripe for its study. A psychologically mature person. That is for whom the Upanishad speaks. Otherwise, the vision is not internalized. The vision is not even known. It is desired very much. Without knowing, it is desired. Everybody wants shanti. Everybody wants to be free of something or the other. But neither the pursuit is understood, nor the goal. There is a sadhana, pursuit, and sadhana, sadhya, goal, asambandha, a disconnection between the pursuit and the goal. And this disconnection is again due to having a human body that comes inbuilt with a mind and that comes inbuilt with all kinds of psychological issues. And if we discuss each and every psychological issue, we'll be here all the time. We'll be here not just for these 2 days, but we'll be here, all the time, because the human mind is full of endless kinds of issues. So therefore, the sages of the tradition, the teachers, the seers and the sages in the parampara, they just had one thing to say, starting with Adi Shankara, that there is an objective reality that we live in, and that objective reality has to do with things that you can see, you can objectify in this jagat. There is an objective reality. I see it, you see it, we all see it. It is there, therefore we see it. This is the objective reality. But then, for the person who needs moksha, who wants Vedanta, who wants moksha, what happens is that there is an overlay of a subjective projection, a psychological projection, and also a transference. And what is the raw material for this transference and projections? The raw material for the transference and projection is what we heard in Dharamji's paper. That is why I wanted him to go first, because then my job would be very easy. So that krodha, these kinds of, whenever a desire is inhibited, it permeates into anger. It mutates into anger. Behind anger is always a inhibited desire. I could not get this, that's why I'm angry. And so therefore, all this what Dharamji talked about, this kama, krodha, all these things, they are all connected here. That is the raw material for the subjective projection. That is part of the raw material. And one's own emotional insecurity, emotional immaturity becomes part of this transference, this projection. So one does not see what there is, one sees what one wants there to be. So it is no longer like this. It is there, I see it. No, I see it, therefore it must be there. One of the highly regarded works of Vedanta, the Panchadashi, gives a very simple example. Very simple example. It is, the setting, of course, is ancient India, and then there is a big gem lying in the middle of the road. A diamond lying in the middle of the road. Maybe some robbers were making off with it and they dropped part of their loot and the diamond is there. Two people from opposite sides of the road see it almost at the same time and they make a dash for it. One of them is little quicker, in better shape than the other, and one of them gets it, the other one doesn't get it. So the one that gets it is overjoyed, hugely overjoyed. I got it, I got it, I got it. The other one who did not get it is despondent. And then, of course, this being ancient India, there are always sadhus walking on the road, and the sadhu is walking on the road completely neutral to the gem. Na hrishyati, na kankshati. He does not want the gem, is not elated at the sight of it, does not have any kind of dvesha towards it, nothing. No hatred, no love, no excitement, no anticipation, is neutral. And so, Swamini, the author of the Panchadashi, says that sadhu is trained because of the exposure to self-knowledge, is trained to drop the scales of subjectivity and see the world as it is. This is what makes the Hindu tradition so great. Because it starts off with a relative psychological well-being as its goal, so that everybody lives in a secure way, in a wonderful way, connected way. Everything is connected. And then there are certain duties, duties towards the animals, duties towards the neighbors, duties towards the family, duties towards the nation, duties everywhere you belong, duties towards Bhagavan, which is the source of everything. And so, based on this Swadharma duties and all other manifestations of dharma, Samanya dharma, Vishesha dharma, one learns to funnel one's desires. And then part of this emotional maturity is accepting that I may not get what I want all the time. I may not get what I want. This is a fact of life. Why? Because there are so many people. And then even if I control all the variables that are known, there is always a hidden variable. Expressed in the maxim, there is many a slip between the cup and the lip. So there are many slips between the object of desire and the desirer. And so therefore, this coming to a sense of acceptance is also achieved in this concept of Karma Yoga. Coming to a sense of acceptance that I may not get what I want. And it is achieved in a wonderful way by talking about the concept of prasada. First you say Bhagavan is the doer. I get some kind of an inner space. Before I identified myself as an actor. Now I have a little bit of an inner space and I see that I am not the agent of my action. Bhagavan is the agent of action. And so the results of action all I do not control. I learn to accept it as prasada. Every Hindu child going to the temple at age 3 is told to put out its little hand and then take whatever comes. If it is a banana, if it is an apple, if it is a banana, you cannot say, Nana, I don't want banana. This is what has come today. This is not banana. This is prasada. And this becomes an upalakshana, a metaphor to accept everything that comes in life, whether you like it or not. That is how the raga dveshas are overridden. But that is, as I said, a partial explanation, a partial ingredient for that subjectivity. There is also another ingredient for the overlay of the subjectivity that makes me distort this Bhagavat Jagat, this Bhagavan's Jagat. And what is that? That is that is what is called avarna. Avarna means a kind of a veiling. We are not talking of the collective avarna, we are also talking of the individual avarna, a kind of a veiling of one's own hurts and pains in early childhood. The Freud is credited with Sigmund Freud is credited with being the father of the concept called the unconscious mind. Our Gauda Padacharya, the grand guru of Adi Shankara, knew this long, long ago. Sa kashayam vijaniyat. Kashayena saha vartate. Know that the mind always exists with the kashaya. Kashaya means sludge. With things that one is not able to accept. With a certain reality of age 3. The burst balloons, the dashed hopes, the parents that were perhaps, the father that was unavailable, the mother that was inconsistent perhaps, the sibling that was mean, so many things. The child has no way to process that because its brain is not developed. And the very primary scare givers that it has to continue trusting are making it afraid. And so therefore, Bhagavan, Mother Maya here puts a veil so that there is that unconscious mind. That this is what is called Kashaya. Samapraptva na vichalayet. Gaining an equanimity, don't go there, says Gaudapadacharya. Go there only in order to gain this equanimity. And the equanimity is gained by understanding that I am not the only one. with this unconscious. Everybody has it. Everybody has it. I'm not the only one having this unconscious mind. Everybody has this unconscious mind. And so it becomes a fact, a psychological fact, that the mind always has this unconscious. And the raga, dvesha is there in every buddhi. The Gita says it outright. Sarvesham buddhau raga dveshau vyavasthitau. But you have a say over not coming under its spell. Tayor vasham na agachet tau hi asya purushasya paripanthinau. Very beautiful. And so therefore, these two things. One is the avarna on the individual level. That I don't know what are my triggers. This is avarna. This is coming from the unconscious mind. And then the other vikshepa. Therefore, I project the anger in places that often doesn't belong. That's the vikshepa. These two become the ingredients for a subjective perception of the jiva, oneself, of other jivas, of the jagat, of everything that I see, the manifest reality, and even Ishvara. This is very, very interesting. And so, therefore, what does Vedanta do? That's why Pujya Swamiji, my guru, Swami Dayananda ji, used to call it super therapy. It picks up where therapy stops. Therapy stops at an appreciation of your background. But here, Vedanta is super therapy because it allows you to drop the subjective perception called by Adi Shankara as adhyasa, incorrect perception. And of course, the stock examples given for this incorrect perception are, we know very well. Rajju Sarpa. This is an example of the rope snake. The rope is mistaken for the snake because it is not clearly seen as the rope. So too the I, the self, is mistaken to be unloved, idiotic, a failure, a loser, because the I is not known as that which is one with Bhagavan. That is how this adhyasa is explained. So what is the remedy? The remedy is to withdraw this adhyasa by doing upashamana to the unconscious. The unconscious is Bhagavat Srishti. You just don't come under the spell, that's all. But then the whole study of Vedanta Shastra, in conclusion I will say, is to withdraw this incorrect perception. How is that done? It is done very, very beautifully. It is done through the appreciation of the entire Jagat, first as Bhagavan, and then the appreciation of oneself as Bhagavan comes later. And so everything is Bhagavan. You Ishvarize, so to speak, the whole universe. And so how is that done? That is done through a conscious adhyasa. That is much better than an unconscious transference. So the antidote to the unconscious transference is a conscious transference. You see everything as Bhagavan. And then you see Bhagavan in a small stone and call it Mahavishnu Saligrama. Saligrame Vishnun Dhyayet. There is a Vakya there. And what is this? Whether it is Kayikam Karma, if I take this small little stone which has a little spiral in it and then call it Mahavishnu and bathe it, physical karma if I do, or if I do dhyana, if I say Om Namah Shivaya, it is one and the same. What is going on is a conscious, deliberate projection or transference. How? Because Nikrishta Vastuni, in this small lowly piece of stone, Utkrishta Vastum Adhyaset. This is what one does. One actually sees Mahavishnu in a small stone. One sees Lord Shiva in the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. This is something which is very beautiful. So through this conscious transference, on what? Not on something that can give you counter transference, that can talk back and defend itself. No. On the altar that is infallible. if one has a transference, it is a very, very, very safe transference, because that transference is absorbed, just like everything that is limited is absorbed in that limitless. That is why prayer and other manifestations of bhakti, bhajans, etc., one feels one with the whole. And through this, and through the study of Vedanta, one learns to have a sound psychological perspective, a healthy psychology that is very necessary for the pursuit of oneself as the truth of the whole, as the truth as limitlessly whole. And this is very, very beautiful, because we come from the freedom to pursue, the freedom of pursuit, and we count the purusharthas as 4. And then what? And then it ends up in the pursuit of freedom. The 4 become 1. How can the 4 become 1? The 4 become 1 because the scales, the cataracts of subjectivity have dropped from the front of the eyes. The 4 becomes 1, and that 1 is just you. And I will close my address with these words. I'm so excited about this conference, and I see that there is a lot of wonderful people here, and I wish this conference every success. Thank you very much to Hari Kiran ji and to Indica for inviting me to be part of this. Thank you so much. Om Tat Sat.
Namaste, Swamini ji. Thank you very much. Pranams. Hari Kiran ji has joined the conference, and he is in England now. Because of time zone difference, we expected that he may not be able to attend, but he is so eager to watch you that he joined the conference. And I don't think there are many questions. These questions, some questions that are there are not really intelligible. Insecurity is unknown. How does one fight within oneself to explore the unknown? So I'm not able to understand what this insecurity is unknown. So if you understand, please.
Yeah, I think perhaps the questioner is talking about the unconscious. Like when the insecurity is unknown, what to do at that time, Hey, don't worry, it will become known. The unconscious waits to come out when you are in close relationship, when you are in a relationship of trust. So if the insecurity is not known, please get married if you're not married already. Then immediately the insecurity will be known. Because then, then one will say, oh, where did the significant other go? What happened? And, so this way the insecurity becomes known. So the insecurity is there. That is why you're asking the question. It is there for everybody. And that is how one feels. One can Bhagavanize, Ishwarize that insecurity. Because everybody has it. It is not my fault. It is a gift of Bhagavan. And then that means what? It is there for everybody. So I don't have to feel bad that I have it. This is just amazing. And so therefore slowly we come out of it. First we make it understood, and then even if we don't even if we don't experience it, it is there. It comes out as a trigger. When one is angry, when one is sad, naturally the insecurity comes out. Okay.
And Subhash Yadavji says psychology, it appears, does not differentiate between mind and consciousness, but Vedanta does. How does Vedanta distinguish between mind and consciousness?
That is a wonderful question. Yeah, mind is really, the only thing you can say about the mind in Vedanta is never mind. That's all you can say about it. Because the mind is not, the mind is nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is not the mind. Consciousness, we say, is the isness, the amness of you. That is defined as consciousness. When I ask you the question, are you here? You will say, yes, I am here. I am, yes. I exist. How do you know? Who told you that? Did you consult somebody? No, I know I am. This is what we call Satchit. How long are you here? Are you here now? 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 Yes? Yes? Yes. What is the length of now? The length of now cannot be measured. It is timeless. That is what is Ananta, Ananda. This is what it is. And so therefore, this is, when you say I am, that means you that is your witness, you are the witness. That is consciousness. That is what is consciousness. The mind is a place where this consciousness is quote unquote, as it were, reflected. This is what the sages talk about, pratibimba, reflected. And then, so it's a place where it's a receptacle where this consciousness is understood, recognized, reflected. But the mind is what we call mithya. Mithya means it is not an absolute reality. Consciousness is the only reality. The mind is an as though superimposition upon this consciousness, without making any changes to consciousness, like even this pot is, as though superimposition on clay, without the clay undergoing any change. I hope that is clear.
Yeah. Swaminiji's talk has inspired many questions. Purva Sharma ji has a question. Can Swamini give examples of how Carl Jung has usurped? She is a fan of Carl Jung, and she is surprised to know that he has taken from Hindu scriptures. She wants to see examples.
One thing, this is very, very nice. Carl Jung read the Ramayana, and he said that in a place, in a land where God can cry, it's a psychologically sound land. The people there are psychologically wonderful. Because, Rama cried. Sita was away. And, Sita had been abducted. And so Rama was like a madman. He hugged every tree. He was, in fact, the first tree hugger in history, Lord Rama. And then he cried. He asked every tree, have you seen my Sita? And cried. And seeing this, Carl Jung said, when what we call God is not outside of the gamut of human emotions, it's a psychologically sound culture. And he was right. You know why? Because in a culture where crying is validated, it's validated because everybody has it. There is no reason to not, to question it. And if everybody has it, it is Ishvara Srishti. And that is what psychological health is. Learning to live soundly with both feet planted in Ishvara Srishti. And what is the cataracted vision? That is called Jiva Srishti, one's own creation. And that is what is not advised. And then Carl Jung also had, in the Hindu tradition, the whole, as I explained, transference is very much there. Counter transference is also talked about. And there. And, we see this in the Upanishad Bhashyas, when we have scholarly dialogues with Apurva Pakshis, there is counter transference, there is, all this is there. And so like this, we see this, there is a lot of things that Carl Jung, took from Hinduism. It is just amazing. A very great thinker. He was a rishi.
There is a question from Badri Krishnanji. How can all this help in handling psychopathological issues like Down syndrome, bipolar, schizophrenia, etc.?
Yeah. So, in the Hindu tradition, we learn to Ishwaraize those conditions. That is what? Because usually we find that people with Down syndrome, the ones who have it, they are in Ishvara's Jagat, they are how they are. They seldom have problems. I'm not talking of general ups and downs, but more or less, the people who are around them have more problems with them than the people themselves. And so therefore, there is the need to look at these, what we call aberrations, within the psychological order. The order of the psychological order, which is a manifestation of Bhagavan, is so vast that it includes disorder. What we call disorder or aberrations are included within the psychological order. That is what makes for a very healthy theory and practice in the Hindu tradition. It is just absolutely amazing.
Nantu Shahji, admiring your talk, is saying, can we say then that a lack of self knowledge or witnessed consciousness is the cause of all the psychological issues that the present society is facing?
The short answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. That is the ultimate cause. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other relative causes. And that's why I gave the whole idea of managing the raga and dveshas. We talked about that. We talked about, pursuing things with compassion, with clarity, with dharma, all these things. So, on the relative level also, there is a certain upashamana, there is a certain resolution needed. And only then the absolute resolution is possible. That's why in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the same sentence is repeated twice. Na bibheti kadachaneti. The person who has Ishvarized the entire Jagat, starting with one's own body, mind, sense complex, has no reason to, no reason to fear, because one is with the whole. One is with Ishvara. And one has acknowledged Ishvara and has invited Ishvara into one's life, and so therefore there is no reason for fear. And then the same sentence is repeated a little later, slightly differently. Na bibheti kutaschaneti. This is the person with Vedanta. The person who has no cause for fear, because there is only one. There is only himself or herself. There is only oneself, and so therefore there is no cause of fear. So we don't gloss over the relative and only go to the absolute. The relative has a place, and then after that relative is mastered, then we turn to the absolute cognitively.
Oh, amazing. So many questions. Swamiji, you have inspired them a lot.
You can
I
email
think
them to
we
me.
cannot take all these questions.
Yeah, you can please email them to me, Nagaraj
Yeah,
Garu.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will
Yeah.
respond to each one of them.
We will connect you with Swamini ji. She will answer all your questions in email, friends. There are questions on fate and free will. There are questions on uh, why mourn if everything is God's will, and there are so many other questions. Okay, so thank you very much, audience, for such a great interest and enthusiasm. Your questions show that there is such a, and the attendance also today is so big. uh, that shows that there is such an immense interest in this topic of how Hinduism has sources for modern psychological topics. And thank you so much, Swamini ji, pranams,
Thank you.
for this inspiring and wonderful talk, a blessing to all of us.